Hi, welcome back to the Box Delights. In this video I'm going to do an overview of a solitaire wargame from Victory Point Games called In Magnificent Style. The game is very much a push your luck dice rolling game representing Pickett's charge at Gettysburg on July 3rd, 1863. There is a two-player variant in the rulebook, but this is very much, I think, one of your solitaire games. And it's a great little, I was going to say filler, but maybe it plays a little bit too long as filler, but it's not terribly complicated. Let me set up and show you the premise. Well, the only thing I have replaced these two dice that come with the game. I like to use two different coloured die. There should be a dark one and a light one. So I've taken these, and you're playing the Confederate Army led by General Longstreet. And Longstreet has three divisions. There's one here led by Pettigrew, Trimble and Pickett. And each of those divisions is made up of three brigades. And we use these little tokens here. So for example, Pettigrew's division starts on Seminary Ridge here. We use these three tokens to represent the three brigades that make up that division. They start with a health of 10, so we use these little tokens here to represent their health. And then we have these tokens here which are either rally or done, and this helps you keep a track of who's activated on this turn and also where their rally point is, and I'll explain that to you once we get into the game. So we set up our three divisions like so, and they each have their starting strength of 10. If they're ever reduced to 0, which the chances are they're going to be during the course of the game, then you lose that division. And each of these divisions is headed by the respective general. So here's General Pettigrew. He's going to be in this division, and here is Trimble and Pickett. At the start of the game, you're going to place your general with one of your divisions. Generals are going to give you a little bonus for that particular brigade, and when you use their ability each turn, they switch over to this use side. Alright. The aim of the game is that we're going to be each turn activating each of our brigades in turn in any order we wish. We're going to be rolling the dice. We're going to look at the die roll and look it up on this chart. So for example, here we have a 6-2, so you read the dark die first and then 2, so 6-2 is a come on boys. Okay, so you look over here and it says that our troops advance forward, some event happens and so on, and then we can activate again. More often than not, you're doing something like a simple advance. So if we'd have rolled 5-2, we'd have got an advance instead. And depending on which division we're activating, and we use this little token here to, let's say we were activating this brigade here, then this brigade would advance forward. And all we do is we move this thing. And you, as General Longstreet, your aim really is to decide how far you want to push your luck advancing these brigades forward on the Union positions, which we're going to set up in just a second. These rally points, as long as you can keep activating, depending on the results here, I mean sometimes you might get some heavy fire which forces your turn to end, but at any point you can choose to stop your advance, bring your rally point up, and then mark the thing as done. But while your rally point is behind, if you're advancing beyond this rally point, then potentially some heavy fire may force you to fall back to your rally point. Okay, so you've kind of got this push your luck element. How far do I want to advance away before I stop, regroup, bring my rally point up, and then on the subsequent turn move forward once more. All right. I mean, if your units rout, then they go all the way back to the start. Our aim is to advance across Emmitsburg Road onto the Union position here at Cemetery Ridge and this copse of trees. To set up the Union position, we just represent, they've got this 5 health instead of 10, we just use these tokens here. And our aim is to reduce their health to a point where they're defeated or captured. And then at the end of the game we score points depending on how many of these units we've captured. And it could be that we're advancing our brigades up here and engaging in melee combat, or it could be that we're actually firing on them from a distance. Okay. The important thing is that all these brigades, they only move up a single column, so there's only forward or backward movement. We do have these long street tokens. These are like a little bonus that we can use, but we've only got 2 of them for the whole game, and these allow us, like I say, twice per game to move a proportion of our unit's soldiers left or right within the same division. So the premise is pretty simple. Okay, we've got a game turn marker which we'll place up here. This is it. There's only five turns in the game. It starts at turn number 1 at 2:05 in the afternoon. We also need to take these fire tokens, place them all face down. Some of these are going to represent our fire on the Union forces. Some of them are going to have things like 3 hits. Yeah, so we reduce their strength from 5 down to 2. We've got things like this is unsteady, and it gives the defending units, the Union units, half their strength value during the bayonet charge or the melee combat. And all these things, some of them are misses, okay, so they do nothing at all. So these tokens here, we want to place them face down and give them a good old shuffle, and just place them off to the side of the board. At the start of the game, you can actually use, if you wish, your 3 generals as kind of a setup bonus. You can use your generals to place some of these fire tokens on the Union forces. In addition, you get 10 of these tokens to place anywhere you wish, and this is called the preliminary bombardment. So I could place what we got, 3, 4, 5. You're just choosing these randomly. We're not going to look at them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I could place 1 on each perhaps, and there's 9 altogether, and 2 on 1. Or I could maybe focus some attention on the 3 central units here. Perhaps put the last one over here. You'll notice that some of these units here, so these ones here on Cemetery Ridge, they're behind a wall, and this little area here called the angle, if any of our Confederate forces get here, because they're particularly vulnerable to attack from this ridge, they're going to suffer extra hits. These 9 squares, 3 here, 3 here, 3 here, they're known as obstacles. So this road is treated as an obstacle, and you'll need to roll some particular dice rolls to get over the road. We've also got this General Lee token that we can use once during the game, and at any point we can at the beginning of the turn say, right, I'm going to employ Robert Lee, or General Lee, and if we do that, what it means is that throughout the whole of that turn, none of our forces can be pushed backwards, and they can't be routed or forced to retreat under heavy fire. Okay. The other thing you'll need is these chits. They're double-sided. On one side they're blue, and these represent events that benefit the Union, and then on the other side they're grey, and these are things that benefit us as the Confederate Army. They're going to be randomised and placed in a cup. I just use the game box. Chuck them in there. Give them a good old shuffle round. And we've got some markers here to represent the reduced health of all the units, both Union and Confederate. So what does a game turn look like? There is a sequence of play on the top of the board. So like I say, you don't really need to refer to the rulebook at all, and it is all pretty straightforward. It says the first thing we do is Union activity. Draw and implement blue event chits. And the number you pick is, depending on which square you're on, which turn you're on, is the number of blue squares. So in the first turn it's 0, you don't draw any blue chits, okay? But in the second turn you'll draw 1, the third turn 2, and so on up to turn 5. So that's these guys here, right? So we're not going to draw anything for the first turn. The next turn is follow me. You can move your division generals to one of their brigades. So this means I can move like General Pettigrew, Trimble or Pickett within those 3 brigades that make up their division. Basically they allow you to re-roll the dice. They give you a +2 modifier when you're in bayonet combat, which I'll show you an example of. And also you can use your generals on certain events. So for example this grey chit here that says Confederate Reserves, this allows you to increase the strength value, what the game refers to as SV, of any one of your brigades by 1 if its strength value is greater than 4, by 2 if its strength value is less than 4, and by an additional strength value if you choose to use the general. So if this event comes up, I could potentially add an extra 1. So its strength value is currently 10, so I get a +1 from Confederate Reserves, and then I can turn Trimble over to get an additional +1, and I would boost this brigade's strength value, its SV, up to 12. Yes, it can exceed its starting value of 10. So these represents the number of troops in that brigade, if you like. The most useful thing, really, because this is very much a roll of the dice. How lucky were you? Being able to re-roll these dice using your generals pretty awesome. So you want to be cautious about using your generals for anything other than that. That's a pretty useful ability. So that's with generals. Then we have the brigade activations, and it says in order desired. That means starting whichever the brigade you wish, and then doing all these actions A, B and C for that brigade, and then selecting another brigade, doing A, B and C for that, until all your brigades have been activated. And a brigade activation involves activating, sighting, move on. So let's go through each of those. So we just pick a brigade. Let's go for Lawrence's brigade right down here in Trimble. And we place this token here just to remind us of which brigade we are currently activating. When we've finished activating this brigade, when it's done, we turn this rally marker over to the done side. Okay. So now we can activate this thing. Well, what does activating mean? It means roll the dice. So we roll the dice and we refer to this table. Rolling a 1 on the darker dice is going to be bad. Rolling a 6 on this darker die is always going to be good. Okay. The second die will determine how good or how bad. So let's give it a roll. So we get 4, 1. And that reads across 4, 1. Heavy fire. We look here, a 1 on this second die is always going to be good bad unless you get a 6 on the first die. So you kind of get a feel over a while of what are good rolls and what are bad rolls. But we got heavy fire, so we look in the little box that says heavy fire and it says choose one. We can either have the unit endure some heavy fire, or we can have the unit falling back to safety. Now as it goes, we're right on the start line. If he falls back to safety, then the brigade is moved to its rally point and doesn't activate again, and then a blue event happens, a union event happens. So that's pretty bad. But we can choose to endure the heavy fire, so let's do that instead. We receive hits equal to half the distance to its rally marker. Halves always rounded up. Okay, so if we were 3 spots away from our rally marker, then we would suffer 2 hits. As it goes, right here, 0 spaces away from a rally marker, so we suffer no hits. But what we do is it flip the advancing brigade marker over to its shaken side. We flip it. Then we draw a blue chit, and the brigade does not move, so we stay here. Lawrence's brigade is kept pinned down by this heavy fire, but we can activate again. So we close our eyes, grab one of these at random, pull it out, and it says, God is a Southerner, which is pretty good because they're never that good. Draw 1 Confederate event chit and implement it. Okay, we managed to pull the one rare good event. So we grab another one. This time we're looking at the grey side because it's a Confederate one, and it says Confederate Reserves. Add to any one brigade plus 1 strength value if its strength value is greater than 4, and then we could potentially use our general as well to get a bonus 1. So that's what I was telling you earlier. So we can do that now. It doesn't have to be the brigade we're activating. Actually, I'm going to add it here on Lane's brigade under Pettigrew. And in fact, I'm going to use Pettigrew. So I'm going to switch it over to its used side and make that a 2 instead. So now Lane's brigade goes up to strength 12. And then once you've resolved a chit, it goes back to the supply. So yeah, potentially these could come up again. Right, so that was the heavy fire choose one brigade. Does not move but does activate the game. So we roll the dice a second time. And this is what each turn looks like. You just activate a brigade, you roll the dice. Right, this time we got 5-3. 5-3. 5-3 is an advance. An advance just says the brigade moves 1 space forward, cannot enter an obstacle, and brigade activates the game. Okay, so we're moving Lawrence's brigade, the one with the token behind it. So they're shaken, but they can still advance. Up we go. So we move the unit forward. These rally points stay. That's important that they don't move. You can, or it's up to you whether you move these strength values along with the brigade or not. I tend to just leave them back here on the start line. There's no need to move all this stuff. Now at this point we can either roll the dice once more, or we can end our activation and move the rally point up and say we're done. Okay, so this is the push your luck element. If we choose to advance, because we're shaken, there's a chance that we may get pushed right back to our rally point again. So it's up to you now. How far do you want to advance and move your troops? Remember, you've only got 5 turns. You're only ever moving up in a column like this. And you'll notice that the board is basically broken down into, well, it's 10 areas actually, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then this little 10 area. These 3 are green, these 3 are yellow, these 3 are red. Now when these chits come out, they may refer to these areas, and they often do. So for example, here's one that says ground obstacle in the red zone. May be placed in a space in front of the Confederate unit in a red zone. This one says the general is hit, picket. If you're in the green zone, no effect. If you're in the yellow zone, wounded for 2 turns, and if red, then General Pickett is killed in action. So you could lose General Pickett. Oh, he's over here. Okay, so yeah, you can push on, but as you push on, potentially the events are going to be more severe for you. But you can't hang back. If you're hanging back, you're not defeating the Union, and you're not earning any victory points. The other thing is, once your brigade has finished activating, you'll look up its column, and then you'll start revealing these fire chips. Okay, and when we turn these tokens over, they'll get discarded. Their effects will take place, and that normally is something like hitting this thing and reducing its strength value down, and hopefully down as far as 0. But they don't get revealed until the sighting phase. This is step B. Alright, so after the brigade's finished activating, then we do the sighting, and that reveals these fire markers. So I'll show you that in a moment, but here's the thing. The sighting phase says if you're in the green zone, if your brigade is down here in the green zones, reveal no fire markers. If you're in the yellow zone, reveal 1 fire marker, and if you're in the red zone, then you reveal all of the fire markers. Okay, so let's push our luck. We're shaken, but let's roll again. We get to activate again. This time we got a very bad roll. So we got a 2-1, that's heavy fire. And this time it says we're not allowed to choose this enduring the heavy fire if our unit is shaken. So we have to do the second part, which says the brigade is moved back to its rally marker, and it does not activate again, and we draw 1 blue chit. And that's bad news, because basically we move back here, this thing's done, we've had a completely ineffective turn. But I don't want to do that. I'm going to use Trimble. So I can turn Trimble to its used side, so I can only do this once. Use the influence of my general to roll the dice once more. And this time we get a 6 and a 4. 6-4 is 6-4. Come on, boys. Okay, and this says the brigade advances aggressively. The brigade moves forward 1 space. It can enter an obstacle, or if it does not, draw 1 grey chit and then activate again. Okay, so if you want to get through these obstacles, significantly the Emmitsburg Road, which stretches the entire map, then you're going to have to roll 6s at some point to get over that obstacle. Okay, so we get to advance 1 space forward and draw a grey chip if we do not hit an obstacle. So here we go, random. And we get open fire. Open fire says 1 Confederate brigade with at least 5 strength value deals as this many fire markers if we're in a red zone. 2, yellow, 1, green zone, none, and +1 if we're using a general. And that means, since everyone is backwards of the yellow and red zones, we don't get to place enemy. And we could use Pickett and have him add a +1. But we don't want to do that. We want to save that general. Okay, so this does nothing. And then we get to activate again. This time, we're not going to risk it. Let's regroup and let's rally. So we move our rally point up. We won't re-roll the dice. We'll move our token over to the done side. And now we just pick another brigade. Actually, what I'm going to do now, I think, is that's the flow, right? You're just activating each brigade, rolling the dice, doing their thing. So I'm going to go and finish activating all my brigades. I'll stop if anyone hits the yellow zone and show you what happens. Hi, well, that was quick. I've played up lane a few, and I've just rolled 4-4, which is determined advance. And the reason I stopped it there is because, well, we've got something new to show you, and also we're about to move into the yellow zone. So the determined advance says the brigade may move up to 2 spaces, can only enter an obstacle if advancing 1 space, and then activate again. So I'm going to move 2 spaces forward, and then so we pushed on through the village. I mean, I could have ducked in here and ended my turn here, but I think we're going to stay there. And then for my next activation, I'm going to simply move my rally point all the way up here and mark it as done. So now that we've activated, when we move into the sighting phase, and because we're in a yellow zone now, not green, we do get to reveal one of these fire markers. There's one up here. I'm hoping it's something good. Let's see. It is, it's 2 hits. And that means we reduce this one from 5 down to 3. Discard this fire token. Well, we don't really discard it. We've got to mix it back in. Okay, so we turn it back over and mix it back in. Keep these 5s to one side, because at some point you're going to need this again to hopefully mark that Union Brigade as captured. So I'm going to carry on. Join me again in a moment. So this is the position at the end of turn 1. We've got a ground obstacle up here. We've managed to push a little bit forward. Trimble took some damage on the last turn from a Union attack. So now that we have moved on and all our brigades have activated, we do the housekeeping. And for housekeeping, the first thing we do is refresh all of our division generals. We flip all of our done markers back over so we can have our units prepared for the next turn, and then we advance the game turn marker to turn number 2. And at the start of turn 2, because there's a blue square in turn 2 here, we draw 1 blue chit event, and we get Union Reserves added versus Pettigrew. This is Pettigrew Division over here. Now that you have the basic flow of the game down, let me show you what happens if we do advance on one of these positions. The next step is going to be to move into this Union position. But this Union position counts as an obstacle. So that means that obviously we're going to need one of these come on boys or determined advance to get into this space. We've now advanced on this Union position. The first thing we do is we resolve any unresolved fire chits. There's 1 hit, that's a miss, that's a miss. Okay, so this guy goes down to 4. Discard these. Shuffle them back in. And now we need to look at the Confederate brigade's strength value. At the moment it's pretty high, it's an 8. Chances are by the time we got here it would have actually been much lower than that. Let's say it's only 5. But what we need to do now is compare our strength value against the Union's strength value. But there are a couple of adjustments we need to do. We can use our general, for example, to give us +2. That will take it up to 7. There are some event chits that, sort of the grey ones, that can give bonuses here as well that we could potentially have held on to. Rebel Yell, for example, this one can give you a bonus in bayonet combat. If we'd have captured any adjacent Union positions, then we get a +1. Also, if there's one of our units here and you happen to have a general on it, it doesn't as it goes, and it's adjacent, then you get also an additionally half its SV, so I'd have a +5 bonus from that adjacent unit as well. So you can see that, what you're moving your units up into these positions kind of helps take adjacent positions. So we're at 7, and then we subtract the Union's SV, so 7 minus 4 is 3. This stone wall that runs here gives the Union another +2 bonus as it goes. So that Union unit here would be effectively a 7 in bayonet combat because of the wall. Okay, so we're 7 minus 4 at the moment, that takes us down to 3. If this is the first round of bayonet combat, we reduce it by 1 more, so that's 2. And in addition, it's -1 for every adjacent Union position with at least 1 SV. So that would take this down to 0. -1, -1. Okay, so we've got a net of 0 here. So everything's kind of even at the moment. But then we roll the dice, okay? And we've rolled a 6. This time the colours are not significant, it's just a 6. And we refer, not to this side, but on the other side there's this bayonet combat result table. So we rolled a 6. This time it would be a result of a struggle. Both sides' units take half the die roll hits each. So this time we would we roll a die. It's a 2, we half that, that's 1 hit for the Unions, and then we roll again for us. It's a 6, we would take 3 hits of damage. Okay, so this little die roll struggle. So you can see that, if you've got a strong position advancing on a weak Union position, then you've got, we had a net 0 adjustment, but potentially you're getting 12 or more on this die roll if you've got a stronger adjustment. The only other thing really to add here is that as soon as you've completed your bayonet combat, then you can't activate again. You're done. The Confederate Brigade's turn is over. And that's the game. You're progressing up to turn 5, pushing as much as you wish to push your luck, coordinating however you feel. So there's a lot of depth, although the mechanics are really simple, right? You start a turn, you draw blue chit, and you roll the dice until your unit can no longer activate, or you choose to rally and not activate. You do that for all your brigades, and then you do your housekeeping next turn. Okay, and that's how you have to advance. You've really got to push because you've only got five turns. So there will be times when you've pushed a long way up and you haven't moved your rally point up. You get forced back. These chits are coming out, placing obstacles on the board. Things like volley fire versus picket is going to hit different units in maybe one division, or there's other ones that say, like this one here says, Vermont Brigade counterattack. Areas 3, 6 and 9 distribute 3 hits among the brigades in those zones, and then it says to do something called a morale check, and that's where you roll a die and you need to make sure you roll lower than your SV. So there's a lot going on with these individual events that come out, and also the Longstreet bonus. And let me explain how that works quickly. With Longstreet you can move up to half, so perhaps 5. Lane's brigade goes down to 5, and I could put 5 of that on Davis's brigade. And you can only do that twice because you've only got 2 of these bonuses. So you've got to be a little bit cautious with those, a little bit frugal. I mean, that wouldn't be good tactically. But let's assume that Davis's brigade gets wiped out. Then we can use a long street to move 5 across here. And what happens then, instead of the 5 units, remember effectively you've got 10 units up here, so we use a long street, we move up to half, and they move laterally. Okay, so effectively they come alongside. Alright, so this guy doesn't have to start all the way back here. But they begin the turn done. So although they move, that's it, that's our activation done. So you can't then activate Davis's brigade and push that up until the next turn. But this can be a real game saver, you know, because you can imagine, because everything operates in a single column. Once a brigade in a column is eliminated, then you're going to struggle to do any damage to the Union position in that column. And then once you've finished turn 5, you sum up your victory points, and there's this little schedule on here. And then in the back, it's in true victory point style, it will tell you what your performance level is. So you can count up your victory points, and it'll tell you whether you've got a major victory, minor victory, and so on. Okay, that's in Magnificent style, a fun little game of dice rolling, pushing your luck. It looks great on the table with just quite a small footprint really. So this is one you pull out and have a little solitaire, perhaps not lightweight but medium weight game. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. By Herman Luckman and published by Victory Point Games.